Deke, it is good to have you on though. Like I
Oh
said,
yeah, brother.
it's been a long time coming. I mean, you were there from like the very start of the vault whenever it was just like a blog. So
Yeah.
like I feel like you've been kind of part of this from the start. I know at one point you were kind of pushing me into not pushing me, but like you were trying to
Oh, I
encourage
was
me to
picking you
like
up and throwing you off the ledge. I
yeah,
knew you could eventually get to something like this. I mean, so I don't know if you know Ben, but Smalls is the first person to ever send in a resume for thoughts from the bench.
damn
So
straight.
Yeah. You've told me that several times
good.
to
I'm gonna
make me
keep
feel
saying it
bad,
till I
I think.
die.
So, uh, well, hey, Deke, just kind of like we did with Will before, I want to lob you a few softball interview questions before we
Get
start the
it?
show. I
Feel
only
good.
have two for you. The first one is honestly, what was like the origin for you, or what was the spark that made you want to create Thoughts from the Bench? Like, why did you, and then did you think that it would get to the point that you have now, where you have multiple shows, you have multiple writers, and for it to get to the platform it's at now?
Yeah, no, it's like a super kind of traditional story in a way, but I obviously I lived downtown for years and I worked at an agency out of college, advertising, and I met Josh Elsas at that job. And Josh hated me originally, and him and I worked together for a little bit. And basically, we went through our different growing pains. And I left agency world and went to do sales at a company that I did enjoy. And but I remember it was like in December. Josh called me. He was like, "Yo, we got to talk." So I met him at Six Pen, where I used to work. And he told me that him and his wife at the time were doing some more freelance work, and he told her that he wanted to bring me on as creative and account running. And I basically told him, I was like, I want to do something in sports. So we kind of had this thing where like I was going with him on the business side of things. He was going to come with me and help with sports stuff. And then it turned into, I would started a blog the next day and wrote a bunch of articles. And then Greg Malik and I had been friends since college. So I was like, Greg, I want to do a podcast. But at the time, I wanted to do a podcast by myself. And I was like, Greg, I really want to get to a point where like I'm having guests on. I wanted it to be very aligned with Coward's show, the Dan Patrick show. And Greg was like, I'll come over every Thursday after work because he worked downtown. And he's like, we'll practice. And it got to the point where like Greg and I just started going. And I was like, it's really dumb of me to ever assume I will do this with anybody but Greg. So for a while, we did a blog and just one podcast, and it was just audio. And then obviously we did YouTube content, which was wrestling based, which a lot of people don't know. And I think you guys might know the history of that part, but we very close to being just a wrestling company. It was me and then 6 wrestling content creators, which was hysterical to me. But then that ended up falling, and it did reoccur in the wrestling league. But the one consistent thing has always been the blog and the podcast. Which we turned into a live show on Twitch first, and then Facebook, and now back to Twitch. But through the development of it all, I realized that 2 things very quickly came about. One, in today's world, it's kind of an interesting concept that I didn't realize the term for it until this year. But there's no such thing as a gatekeeper anymore. So, Smalls, you've come to me countless times and you say, I want to do audio and I want to do podcasting, I want to do sports. There's no barrier to entry into this realm of society right now. You guys can start a YouTube channel and make YouTube video, and it can be just as good as companies that are doing it across the country. So one, there is no reason to not create something. People just need pushed. 2, I realized that through this passion, I was developing skills that I hate going to class. I hate signing up for classes. I hate doing courses.
Same here.
It's just like, I don't enjoy being at the bottom of not knowing something. And I know people are like, well, you got to know how to get up in the ladder and shit. And it's like, no, I hate sucking.
Forget that. Yeah.
Right. So I hate courses and classes, but I realized very quickly, I'm learning all of these skills that I'm not learning at work. I've never been taught in college. So the second fold of that started very heavy with all the shows and podcasts, because now we have every person under our umbrella has earned and learned skills that they can take on a very professional level. And even with this show, I mean, I would say that Smalls, you speak credence, and so does like another big name that I tout around the goddamn planet is Ryan Votash, because he's been able to take Rankings Court. He runs the whole show. Those are 2 people that could easily step into some other realm of a career path. They didn't have to pay for courses. There was no weird, like, give us money. I literally wanted people to create content, to have fun, but also, it's this learning of tangible skills. So that part came very late into the process. Beginning, it was, can we smash a bunch of beers, talk sports, and if we get more shows, good. Now it's turning very much into workshopping. It's turning into giving creative outlet to friends that didn't have it. And it's turning into making sure people are getting skills and traits that is worth their time. Because we don't, it's not something that's secret. We don't pay anybody that creates content for us. And we really don't generate that much revenue. It's all passion, fun until we hit some next level. But I wanted people to feel like they were earning something, even if it wasn't fame and fortune.
Yep.
So that was a later find in it. And sorry, that kind of spun off into a tangent, but that's where the company's going. And it's super, like, I finally can say I'm very proud of where we are. Because for a while you're like, oh, we only have 7 viewers. 7 people are taking 2 hours out of their week to watch you bullshit about sports.
Exactly.
That in itself is cool. So,
well, and I think with you having that origin and that genesis of where it was supposed to start, of just having the good-heartedness of it's just a bunch of guys being dudes talking sports, and like it was like anyone that was watching the show was basically stepping into the room and being a part of your conversation. You know, it was a virtual experience of being able to sit with you and have this conversation. And I think that that's something that a lot of people, no matter what your social life is like, strive for. And there's some people who they don't have anyone in their lives that can just BS with them. They don't have anyone in their lives that can just talk sports. And you give that outlet for so many people that I think that it has such a good-hearted beginning, that watching it grow, knowing that that's where it started, and being able to still maintain that while reaching other avenues is awesome. And I think the things that you have expanded on when, it was just talking and it was audio. Now you've got how many shows now, and then you've got people still pumping out articles, and, and the fact that it's grown from just you and a couple friends being able to make it what it is today with, the potential to be exponentially better than it even is right now is awesome. And everyone that's a part of it is dedicated to it and wants to see it grow as well. And I guess that does lead me to my second question, which is a little bit more personal. Yeah. Which screw went loose that let you bring me and Smalls on?
You told me we would not be addressing that on this show. That question is off limits. I am not legally allowed to answer that one.
Do it.
No, it's no brainer. I mean, you guys obviously, for anybody that watches the show but doesn't know the history of TFTB or the history of you two, you both came in at not like identical times, very similar situations where, I explained to you guys that I do get, emails and certain texts and things like that from people all the time that say, it's really cool. And I do appreciate the fact that I think you both really do appreciate where this all started from and what it is. And there's no snake oil sale for fame on this. This is literally, I'm very transparent about all that. But with you two, it's, Smalls came in at a time where the show was hitting a stride by itself. And so there was 2 beers deep. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't get is there's an umbrella, which is Thoughts on the Bench. Everyone thought those 2 beers deep and Thoughts on the Bench are the same thing, which they are synonymous. 2 beers deep is just a show. Thoughts on the Bench is the company. So at that time, it was just 2 beers deep and the blogs. And that was pretty much it. Like Josh hadn't started By the Slice. Josh was blogging, but he was doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff that really is not as appreciated as it should be. But Small said, hey man, you're missing a huge section of sports, which is college sports. And me, I have a large appreciation for college sports, but I went to, I was in Kiski and then Slippery Rock and then Point Park. College sports were never a big thing for me. My dad didn't go to college. My mom went to IUP. I have some family who went to Pitt and Penn State, but it was never like my thing. So he emailed and said, hey, you are missing this big market. Here's like my fandom, how long I've been watching sports, and all this really cool information where, obviously I knew right then and there that he wasn't just another person being like, let me do something, because I explained that there's no gatekeeper, and both of you, which I'll get to your story, Ben, both of you very much have shown in your lives that you are ready to do something. And it's not like I'm waiting for permission. It's literally like, hey, this is my idea. If you think it's good, I'm going with it. But you both have a respect and appreciation. So Smalls was a no-brainer. We brought him on to write. And then obviously the Vault came from that in blog form. And then to Instagram form for a little while, Smalls, where we tossed pictures in there. And the Vault was, it was easily the first like catchy thing we had going for us. Like it was the first, because 2 beers deep and Thoughts on the Bench, and we have all these like really very cool names and concepts of things. But the Vault was like, yo, we're going to the Vault. We're bringing out the best jerseys from the past. And everyone's like, that's it. So the Vault has had so many iterations. And that's why I was so glad that we were able to get this show and give you guys the full reins. And then Smalls, you've obviously absolutely flourished under your own, because not a lot of people can be outside of the city of Pittsburgh and maintain the level of, communication and understanding and willingness. And then to get to you, Ben, you've been in my life. I don't even remember the first time I met you at this point, man. Do you remember anything about the first time you met me?
To a T. You had me at hello. No, I remember. I think I was in 6th grade, and there was some party at your cousin Ian's house. Who, if anyone follows the show, that is Austin, the Ranking's younger brother that I grew up with.
Keaton, the intern's older brother.
And yeah, and I remember we were at your aunt and uncle's house. And Ian was like, hey, my cousin Derrick's coming over. And you were this dude who came over and didn't treat us like little kids. And I was like, oh, this guy's fucking awesome, at that point. And then there was, for a while, like my freshman year of soccer, during the summer when we had 2 days, you would drive me and Ian to practice a couple times. And we bonded over some very odd music choices and making fun of Bob Wright. And it was good. It was a good back and forth connection.
That was like prime Broken Side 303 days, I feel like.
and I think it was because, like, I never viewed you as an older guy. You never viewed me as a younger guy. That relationship just kind of went back and forth. And that's why, once I saw what you were doing with Thoughts from the Bench, is why I decided to contact you.
Yeah, and I think it actually is unfair to say that the email was the first time that I've met Smalls. Obviously, I've known you guys for years through soccer, and both of you, obviously, from a very early age, I could appreciate, you guys as humans, and I knew you guys would eventually become the humans that you are, not like to a T, but I was like, all right, Smalls, you and your family and I were very close. And then growing up in soccer, and I remember that I got into a fight with Lang one day because I thought that you and Keebler should be on varsity ahead of DeZatis, but him and Jamie loved DeZatis, which shout out to Jiggy, because I just played him in GPSL this summer and I tried to trip him.
Dude, I was going to say, you can't talk shit on Jiggy because Jiggy was way
Jiggy was
better
good.
than me.
Jiggy was good. My literal argument was that, one, I told Austin, I said, he's going to be a complete douche because you and Jamie and Jenkins treat him like a god. And I said, 2, he's too tiny. I would have put him through a wall. But Jiggy he was wonderful. But we were just talking about freshmen playing, and you guys were all capable. But you were, Smalls back then, even you were a very mature guy. But back to Benny, yeah, no, that your entire group of friends have all been. And it's funny because it's my relationship with the Moorheads as a whole. I mean, Austin and I would grow up, he would show me horror movies, and he entered a lot of the comic book aspect into my life. My love for Marvel, I would say, partially comes from Austin. Ian and I were playing sports. We'd always be in the courtroom. We'd always be swimming. And then it was interesting with Keaton because Keaton and I were sports talking. So Keaton helped strike up a little bit of my passion for sports at an early age because he would want to talk and know. Ian would want to play. Austin would want to play video games. It was a very distinct, like, what I want to do when I come over, but with your group
each
of friends.
One of them, like, served a purpose.
Yeah. And then get rid of them once I didn't want them anymore. But no, your entire group of friends were very mature, very fun. It was something that I will admit, like, I always envied, because not that I don't have like I have some wonderful friends through my life, but a lot of them have always been me and that guy are friends. And I've never had like a very close group of friends that we all hang out and had to do the same thing through college, or we, like, when we did trivia and you guys all know each other's birthdays for some weird reason. I don't know my friends' birthdays. I just know that. So I was always very envious of your friend group, and I was very fortunate to be seen as a friend and not some weird older guy, even though it was only really a 4-year gap in there. But when you came on to Thoughts on the Bench, man, you had already, like, I think the most impressive thing about you, Ben, was that you had already attempted stand-up. So that was that. I mean, I've never attempted stand-up. That spoke volumes to me, because I was like, this dude has already taken the time to sit down and write content, taken the time to read it into a mirror or whatever you would do for preparation.
Oh, that's 100% it. So,
but that's the thing, is like you already started to do the things that when you were like, hey, I want to join Thoughts on the Bench, could I? I'm like, no, don't say could. Like, you've done more than other people that are on here. So it was a very no-brainer. I was very fortunate that both of you asked to be a part of it, because you both were big parts of my life up until Thoughts on the Bench, and obviously passed it to that point. But no-brainer. As far as how this show got greenlit, I don't really know. I think I just wanted our YouTube channel to get a little bit better, but no, it was a no brainer. You guys are a perfect match, and you guys were already friends before this, and it doesn't feel forced. In none of our shows, I would say the nice thing that we've been able to do is like nothing feels forced or not genuine or salesy. Every show is actually a genuine conversation every time.
We keep everybody comfortable with each other.
I take such pride in that, man.
Each person on each show bounces off each other. So I think that that's something, honestly, like you said, that you take pride in it. It should be something that you're proud of, because think of how many shows are a part of Thoughts on the Bench now and under that umbrella.
Yeah.
And that you have at least each co-host, you have two people that are compatible that make the show go on.
We got lucky with a lot of people, but you two are a very clear example that the barrier to entry is to literally just start doing the thing. And like, you know, Smalls has learned. I'm very willing. Josh is very willing. If you guys would ask Greg, I'm sure he would be willing, even though Greg obviously does nothing but just sit there and be the eye candy of the show, which is frustrating. But you guys do it, and that's the glory of it. And it's just wonderful that you guys were able to click as well as you have been, and get the show going. And I couldn't be prouder of you guys.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing I would really add on to that, and Ben, I would think you would agree, like you said, there's no barrier to entry. Whenever I emailed you my quote unquote, you know, resume, like, it was literally just because I wanted to do it. Like, I knew that, like, the web, you know, the site wasn't big at the time. Like, it was still pretty small. It was literally just an outlet for me to want to do something that I've always liked doing, but I never had anywhere to really do it. And, like, even, like, this show, I've come out and said it before, like, I'm not very comfortable on camera. I'm not. I don't like putting my face out there. Even I just recently started, you know, putting this out on my personal social media. So, like, this, just being a part of this whole
I've never
thing,
seen Canner and Smalls in the same room is what I'm going to say.
Hey, who's that? Who is that? I don't know what you're talking about. But
sorry to cut you off, buddy. Keep going.
No, I mean, it just, I feel like, Ben, you would agree. Like, it's just, it's cool to be a part of something that you're doing something that other people haven't really, I don't want to say gotten the courage, but, like, you're just doing something that you love doing just because you want to do it.
Absolutely. And I think that, Deke, that kind of reverts back to what you were saying, is like, people, even like us, whether, no matter what part that they've come in, it's not like, oh, I want to get in on the ground floor so that I can, you know, flourish my own. It's just like, to me, and I think this speaks not just for me personally, but for a lot of people that are a part of it now, is there are three main things. It's A, it's just fucking cool. B, it's something that we want to do anyway, and we probably never had the group or the platform to do it. And then C, you know, everybody that you know, or well, almost everybody that you know that's now on Thoughts from the Bench knew you previously and had a connection and was like, hey, I want to help Deke out if I can. You know, and I think that those three things are like, there's no one on the bench that has any reason other than that to be a part of it.
It's an amazing thing, because, you know, starting a company like Thoughts on the Bench is the easiest thing in the world when you have friends to exploit like mine. And it's funny, but it's true in a sense, because one of the more fascinating things about Thoughts on the Bench is that it really shouldn't be around still, if that makes sense. Like, it was me blogging and podcasting for a year by myself, and so many people were, you know, you stop doing it or you burden yourself. And that's why, you know, I've tried my best, and I'm very transparent again that I'm learning as I go. And there's decisions I've made that have been good. I think moving to Twitch was good. I think getting you guys to start pushing the YouTube inside of things has been good. And there's different decisions that have been good. But the best decision that, like, honestly, that I could ever hope for is trusting guys like Moorhead on the Rankings Court, and trusting Vo, and trusting, like, obviously I trust Josh at this point with my life out of pure, one, because he's one of my best friends, but two, necessity. I mean, that dude knows me better than anyone on the planet, maybe him or Greg Malik, but trusting those guys with aspects of my life that sometimes we're not talking like friends, we're talking as business partners, we're talking as co-hosts. But I've had to learn a lot to trust people in my life that, and it's funny because, like, guys like Vo, him and I at Slippery Rock would be creating things on Photoshop together. And he's a very creative person. And so to be able to see that in him and to see it in you guys and for you to reach out and all those types of things, but to give them the chance, because a lot of people do feel, and like I keep beating the gatekeeper thing like a dead horse, but a lot of people feel like, oh, I never got my shot. And it's really kind of fuck that. Like, I understand that that's super easy to say, because even from a professional standpoint in my professional career, I still sit there, I'm like, man, if I got a shot, but then I'm like, I literally preached all these guys to go take it. Like, I need to rewire my brain and rewire the way you think. But no, I mean, it's literally, this would not be possible without the people that we have. Like, Greg is able to come to my apartment or wherever I need him for 3 hours once a week. And that is the reason Thoughts on the Bench is still around. I'm very, adamant about that. Greg kept this company afloat, but it's these friendships and these partnerships that I've built my entire life. It's literally just don't be a dick and people will help you get your goal. Like, it's an amazing concept, but just don't be a jackass, be a good person, and people will believe in you and you can believe in them.
Yep.
Well, Derrik, I think just on behalf of like everybody, we thank you for giving us a shot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This was a shot for every one of us to take, and that's why is like anytime, me and Smalls, I think both came to you with the same approach of like, hey, we want to be a part of this, but we understand.
And you both put a very, very big thing out there saying you were missing XYZ. We were missing college football and we were missing basketball. You both addressed something that, not that we oversaw, but something we didn't have the time to do or the amount of people to do it with. And you both took the initiative, but you also addressed something we needed. It was, no brainers all around. So as much as you guys say thank you, I thank you guys very easily. So,
well, that's enough praising.
No, I want to keep hearing how cool
right
I am
there.
and stuff. Keep talking about how cool I was growing up. Yeah.